so easy. That's why we come here, because we know underneath all of our many and uniqueness, differences, is this one energy. And yet we have so much suffering in the world. So we all know in these last couple weeks there's how much suffering there's been with Nepal and the thousands of lives that have been lost, the hundreds of thousands that have been changed forever. We know about the Supreme Court was hearing cases about the equality of gay marriage. And for me, that it took pain to get us to that, to even, not only to this place, but I think I may not be alone feeling like, wow, why wasn't this done decades ago? And it seems so late. And it's taken us this long to get there. So much suffering had to get to this point. And then we have the Baltimore protests that became riots. I personally was not only heartsick to see what was happening, but heartsick to see people's comments on Facebook's page and that underlying racist ideas that started emerging and sort of shocking me in many ways, that people would say the things that they say, and just feeling, wow, there's just so much cruelty in this world, and where we don't come from that place of one love. And so how do we explain that in God? The theme this month is stretch, fulfilling our highest potential or potentials. Like I always forget. Is it plural potential or singular potential? Who's grammar person? Our potential. So there's no S. Okay. I keep saying it, changing. Okay. Our potential. Oh yeah, it's in our, okay. We're fulfilling our highest potential as individuals and global citizens. And we do that by evolving, by continuing to grow. And so this week we're talking about spirit, next week mind, the next week heart, the next week body. And let's not pretend that they're not all interconnected. So it's not, I'm separating them kind of, but they're all interconnected. So looking at it from spirit, God, how do we explain all this suffering that seems to happen all the time? And just to make it even more immediate, for those of you who get Livermore Patch News, on Marietta last night, a drunk driver crashed into an apartment building and killed a mother or a 40-year-old, I think it was the mother, woman and a 14-month-old baby, and sent two boys 6 and 7 to the hospital. Why? We are loving. We would never, if we were God, we would never let that happen. How do we explain this in our head of a God? We say God is good all the time. How do we say, or it's all good is one of our favorite sayings. It's all good. We make lemonade out of lemons. How do you make lemonade out of lemons with a mother and baby being killed? How do you make lemonade out of lemons out of thousands of deaths in Nepal? And all the harshness of separating the racism, the homophobism, all those isms. And how do we find the good in all of this? Is that just Pollyannish thinking? We can say, well, we are all made in the image and likeness of God, so we are made in the image and likeness of God, so we're co-creating this reality, so we're responsible. And then I see people in this teaching who then get very self-blaming. Oh my gosh, we're creating this reality, or we blame other people. You created this, you made this happen. I saw that too. I have an African-American friend who's also in the New Thought movement, and he was tired of people saying, well, you created this reality. African Americans created this reality, and sort of another way of blaming. People are trying to find a place to blame all this suffering. For a long time, it was blamed on the devil. We need something to say what to grasp our mind around why is there all this pain. And I don't think there's any easy answer. I don't think there is an answer that we can rationally come up with. But I have three perspectives, or one perspective with 3 points. So I'll begin with an interview with James Spader. Seems like a logical place to start. Okay. James Spader is an actor in the TV show Blacklist. I've never actually seen the show, so I didn't fully understand the question because I don't know the show. But his answer really resonated with me. An interviewer was asking him what was going to happen between him and this other character. I don't know what it was, but some sort of basically a resolution. When are we going to find out the answer to this relationship? And his response was the key to the entire universe. I don't know if he knew that, But it was. And he said, if I told you that, there would be no reason for the show and I wouldn't have to show up for work anymore. If we were all fully, completely enlightened and fully awake to everything, there would be no purpose for Earth at all, and we would just be all vibrating in oneness. So it's easy to say, well, why aren't we fully there yet? But the story's over then. So there's a reason I loved Yogananda says the divine doesn't want us just to be ecstatic in bliss. She also wants us to be living out her drama story. There's a desire, there's an intent, there's a volition to be living out this human desire. So I've talked about it before, but I think it's important because it's an important idea to really understand when we talk about oneness, because we get confused. There's two types of oneness. By the way, as we evolve, things get far more complex. There's the primordial oneness, where it's just one. Everything's just blandly one. There's no separation. There's no individuation of drops. There's just one. So a way to look at that is when a baby's born, the baby's just merged with the parent. There's no separation. There's just life. It's just experiencing life as it's arising. It doesn't have a sense of self. And so our entire human journey is about that individuation experience, about becoming finding out this individual I. It starts with the toddler. No, I can separate myself from my parent now, and it's pretty exciting. I'm sure you've never experienced that, though, right? But we still do it. No, say to God, no, I'm an individual. I have a friend who we were coming home from one of our classes. This is when I was a student, and he said, "I'm so tired of this one mind thing. I want my own mind." One mind. But that's true. We want that individual expression. So the second type of oneness is full, and we're going to go deeper and deeper deeper as we talk about this, is the full realization of our individual self as it merges into the oneness. The final line, I forgot, it got too long, so I took it off, but the ultimate reality, according to Yogananda, and other traditions say the same thing, is that we become fully released into the oneness and yet maintain our individual spirit. And that's a paradox that we can't humanly, rationally grok, but that's the spiritual journey that we are on. So if we just want to do what Ramana Maharshi did and just go on top of a hill and just say, forget all this world, forget the dream world, forget the causal world, I'm just going to be in bliss, because all of that's an illusion, which was then he's into the primordial oneness, but he hasn't individuated yet. He hasn't gone, he didn't participate in the story anymore. He didn't want to go through that full journey. But there's something in us that wants to go through this full journey. So that gets me to point number 2. How many of you are aware of Thomas More, who wrote the book Care of the Soul? Fantastic. So he came along because he was saying that there were so many people who were interested in becoming spirit, one was spirit, but we were missing the soul in culture. So he differentiates, so for him, spirit is the absolute, the ever-changing that we talk about when we start every prayer. It's the absolute ever-changing. It's always ever-present. It's always fully enlightened. It's never in doubt. It's never confused. And that is the essence of who we are. The soul is our individuation. That's our individual self. Now, one thing he says, and it resonated with me, is spirit moves faster than soul. And we are both. We are both spirit. We are all fully enlightened. And we're soul. We're an individual discovering ourselves. And the soul gets attached. So I talk a lot about the Bhagavad Gita, where you're not supposed to get attached to things. Release attachment, release resistance. In Zen, it's just allow the isness. Just accept whatever arises moment to moment. It's just the isness. Don't call it good. Don't call it bad. It's just the isness that's arising. That's all from the spiritual perspective. From the soul perspective, the soul does get attached. The soul does get identified with relationships. It does get identified with a house that you've fallen in love with. It gets identified with the world around you, and it's hard to change. So he says spirit moves fast. We can have a moment of enlightenment where we totally get something, but the soul moves slowly. He says it moves like molasses because it has to release its attachment and move. And there's emotions involved. It's in our body. And so we have these two dynamics going on all of the time. So I can have a moment of, oh man, like I get it conceptually, and I just, in meditation, had this revelation. I'm abundance. God is abundant, and I'm abundance. And I can know it inside and out, but then to actually express it takes time. There's a process in the time-space continuum that's very slow. So it might take us a long time to catch up with that spiritual realization. So again, going back to that original model of oneness, we have the always already consciousness. That's the oneness. So we want to be meditating. So we're connecting with that always, every day. But at the same time, we have our soul identity that is growing through these stages of evolution to become fully awake. And so this leads me to my third point, which is Carl Jung and depth psychology. How many of you are familiar with Carl Jung or Joseph Campbell, the hero's myth? Because you're going down into you're going into the darkness. You're not. I actually started with them before I got into the Eastern tradition. So the Eastern traditions really focus on self-realization and enlightenment, on spiritual awakening. Western world has really gotten into this more psychological world and going into the depths of our human soul and so Carl Jung and really took it into the archetypes, and here are the stories, and here are the symbols, and here are the dragons we have to face, and it's the hero's journey because it's terrifying and it's dark. And we have to go through that journey as well, and that's actually what gives life richness. So that's earth. We're moving into earth. And so what we find is to expand ourselves, to stretch ourselves spiritually, is to say we need to be doing both. So if I'm around someone who's just meditating all the time and wanting to be enlightenment, I might be alone, but I always feel like there's something missing. I just like, yeah, but I don't feel you. I don't get you on earth. You're like awake, and I feel that, but there's still something missing. It's not the full picture. And then we have the soul story, someone who's just, so when I started with the Carl Jung and all of that, and that wasn't enough, because then you're always sort of in the journey, and it's always emotion, and you get sort of stuck in that. We need both. The spiritual expansion that we all have to be doing is both to transcend and expect full enlightenment, freedom, and to go into the deepest dark pit, because there are things revealed there that can never be revealed in the heights. In fact, Carl Jung says we can only go as high as we go low, and if we are unwilling to go low, we will never know those heights. Because there's something in us that's afraid, that thinks actually God isn't down there as well. We don't think the beauty and the harmony is in that pain and in that suffering. So do we need suffering? I think it's actually part of this extraordinary journey we're on. Part of the challenge I had with New Thought for a while was that it was always so like, let's just know wholeness and perfection. But I thought, I was looking around at all my friends who've been on this journey. We've all gone through suffering. There's no amount of spiritual principle that's going to keep us from suffering. So rather than always trying to fix the suffering, go into it, allow it to teach us, allow ourselves to feel the depths of that pain, because there's a place for that is almost awesome and beautiful. I just think of, there's a song that Agape Choir sings that Reverend Michael and Ricky, they're a music minister down in Los Angeles. There's a song called Someone Needs a Prayer Today. And it's on their first CD, and I used to sing it, Someone Needs a Prayer Today. And I'd sing along, it's a nice song. But every time Nikki Harris gets up and sing it, someone needs a prayer. Everyone just like bawls. We just all start crying. Where is she singing from? She's not just singing someone needs a prayer. She's singing from the depths. And it's the depths of her own journey, of her own spiritual pain that she's had to overcome, which has various levels. There was one level where her foot had jaundice, and the doctor told her she had to get it amputated. And Reverend Michael and the whole community just started praying for the health and the wholeness of her foot. And by the time she went back to the doctor, it was cured, and she never had to get it amputated. In fact, it was totally fine now. So when she talks about someone needs a prayer, when she sings, you can feel, it's like her whole body singing it, because I don't think it was just the fact that she has her foot, feeling the love of the community, that everyone just stopped what they were doing and prayed for her. That someone needs a prayer for her is not just a thought, it's not just a nice high, it's something that she feels deep in her soul. And when we feel someone's soul, when we start crying because we feel that their love or their expression. It happens all the time in class. People say, I'm sorry, I'm crying. We're supposed to cry because we're feeling something so deeply, and it's so beautiful that we can't even describe it. It's rich, it's deep, it's fulfilling, it's beautiful. And what's interesting is if we describe mystical states, it's the same thing. Oh my gosh, it's extraordinary, it's beautiful, I can't describe it, it's a place of articulation. So this journey that we are on is to be able to have both of those experiences. They're both beautiful, awe-inspiring, awesome, where we feel we want to bow down, and yet they're entirely different. So what I believe our journey is, why every one of us are on this planet, is to fulfill both of those, to be the marriage of heaven and earth. Beth was asking me what the title was for this talk, and I didn't know, so I just said, I am more than this, because that seems like a stretchy thing to say. But as I was with the talk, it really is about the marriage of heaven and earth. We know when we marry two things, the sum of the parts is greater than the parts themselves. So that's how we get a new heaven and a new earth. Heaven changes too. Earth changes when we become so fully, deeply human, so we can feel the angst of what's happening in Nepal, the pain of racism, the pain of homophobia, and we can feel it in our soul deep, and we can feel that and go into it and not be afraid of it as heroes would do, and at the same time strive to be as mystics, to feel and experience the transcendence, and to marry those two experiences as one. That's this glorious process that we're on this world. That is why every one of us are here, is to experience both of those things. And we are on that journey, and it's extraordinary. And I think, so why do we come to this planet? Why are we willing to be on a planet where there's so much suffering? Because I believe our souls know at the deepest level that the fulfillment is greater than anything we could ever possibly imagine, and we are willing to face these horrible things so we can come and be evolved to this highest vibrational frequency. And pain is part of that journey, because the soul is attached. The soul does care. The soul does want good for everybody, and that's good. It is good that we care. It is good that we cry. It is good that we feel for one another. We feel each other's pain. And may we never be so transcended that we stop feeling each other's pain, but may we never get lost in each other's pain that we can't be transcendent. That's our journey of the marriage of heaven and earth. The two tools that we use to embody, to start waking that up: meditation. There's no substitute. I invite you always to every day at least pray 15 or meditate 15 minutes, even if you're just talking, just sitting still. Doesn't matter how busy your mind is. You've made a commitment to know that transcendence. It's the entire reason why we're on this planet, so it's worth of 15 minutes, I think. And the other one is prayer. I think prayer we kind of undercut sometimes and not really realize how powerful it is. But if you start praying, I guarantee everyone in this room, try it this week. Pray out loud once a day. Maybe I like to do it when I'm walking, but I always like to stand, actually. It gets the energy going. Pray and recognize, and if your prayer starts with recognizing that God is everything that's happening in this universe, and that you are one with God. Just that. Just get that. If you can just get that when you do your prayer out loud. So this is not prayer by rote. Even if for those of you who are learning treatment, it's not just doing it by treatment. It's to really get it. There's one God, and I am one with God. So when I'm speaking this prayer, I'm speaking from that place of oneness. You do that, and then you start praying for what you want to pray for. Yes, pray for the people who are going through pain. Pray for Baltimore and Nepal. But first and foremost, pray for yourself. It's like the oxygen the parent breathing in air before they give it to their child. Breathe in your own air. Pray for your own full enlightenment. Be big and bold in your prayer. Don't be small and little in your prayer. Be big and bold. God realization, self-realization. I am fully enlightened here and now. You have just now claimed your unification with God and are claiming out loud that you are fully enlightened, that you are fully awake on every level and dimension of your being is awake in God consciousness. Your physical, emotional, mental, subtle, causal, energy bodies, every aspect of your being is fully enlightened right here and right now. And from that place, I accept the deepest compassion for all the pain and the darkness within myself, any place in myself that I reject, that I don't like, that is ugly, that is small, that is limited, that continues day in and day out. I own and accept that this is a part of who I am, and I open it in compassion and love. And I feel that oneness. I am the marriage of all seeming opposites. I am the marriage of heaven and earth. I am the marriage of the adult and the child. I am the marriage of the masculine and the feminine. I'm the marriage of the dark and the light. So I'm the marriage of everything that seems opposing to each other. I become that. Our prayers are about becoming ourselves. That's what makes it powerful. You do that every day, and I guarantee you're going to start feeling little earthquakes in your life. So in fact, I had a friend, and she gave me the wonderful wisdom, and I pass it on to you. When you do that prayer, just add in ease and grace. Because, and it's true, I have definitely pulled back sometimes, a lot of times in prayer, because things start to happen faster than I can keep up with them. Because the prayers are operating not just transcendence, it's operating humanly, physically, emotionally. I'm praying for myself. Mentally, I'm praying for myself. I'm integrating finances, relationships, work. It's going to impact your life immediately, like that, right? Just knows. So we expand ourselves by being willing to do these two things. Just do these two things to know your transcendent self, your always and already enlightened self, and then pray for your human self on all aspects of your being, how you are showing up on this planet, and then pray for all the connecting with all the pain that's happening, and you're going to feel yourself stretch. You're going to feel that stretch spiritually to become why we are here, the whole essence of why we are here on this planet, which is to wake up and be fully enlightened and be completely one in all human compassion for the depth of humanity's experience. Are you willing to try that? Pray and meditate seems so simple, but you got to actually do it, and do it consciously, not out of rote. I prayed yesterday. Pray again. It's brand new the next day. Let's pray now.